And hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome to Get a Grip with Coach Elex. I'm your host, Coach Elex. And with me, my amazing co host,
Stephen Frederick Masick is
who
here.
is also my husband and attorney. According to one of my gym friends that saw us last night, like extremely handsome, good looking.
Oh
So,
boy.
mhm.
Oh.
And
Oh.
you hate it when people make comments like that about you, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Of
Yeah.
course. I mean,
You get
who
very
would
upset.
not be happy about hearing something like that, right?
Exactly. So, and
Exactly.
today, so today, Stephen, because Mother's Day, it's coming up this Sunday. I figure it would be appropriate to talk about a mother's love. You know, that first place where we learned love, sacrifice, strength. And you and I both have our own stories because you were super close to your mom, and she was an incredible figure for you. And for me, I have quite a unique story because I was adopted. So I have my mom who I took care of till she passed a couple of years ago, but I also have an aunt who was a mother figure for me and someone that today I like to honor in this show. So we'll talk about that later on. But before we get into that conversation, Stephen, what's going on? What's happening? Give everyone an update on your whereabouts.
Where do I start? I don't
I
know.
don't know. Where do you start?
Where do I start? Well, things are going just jolly. That's where I'll start. Everything's moving right along. Some of the one of the biggest projects you and I have been working on is at the end stages, which is beautiful. So
It's
that takes
it's
a lot of time.
amazing. Yes, and I
Yeah, it takes a lot
cannot.
of time to
Yeah,
take a look and review, and sometimes there's things that you need to give feedback for or about something, and you have to watch something or see something or read something more than once to figure it out. Then you have to walk away and come back to
right.
it, because if you just do a one round and you do your feedback, ultimately there's always going to be something that you missed, or you know that modification or that feedback has to have more feedback on the first feedback. So that's something I've learned. So you know.
And this is something that I cannot wait, Stephen, to be able to share with people because we've been working on this project for years now, at least 6 years, since 2020.
Yeah, no,
So,
no, actually before it was before COVID.
oh, that's right. It was before COVID. That's right.
Yeah,
What
I
am I
think it was
thinking?
2019 it started,
Yeah,
really.
so I can't wait. Just cannot wait. But
Me
we
too.
feel really, really good about it, and it just it feels like the project represents our own growth, right? Personal and professional.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And you know, it does. I
Yeah.
don't want to get too much into it, but it's good. It's all good. But on a separate note, which is very, very big, is that this morning I went out for my run and I hit an all-time high. I did over 7 miles, exactly 7.2 miles at a 5:36 pace.
And if anyone is a runner, that is elite paced. That is I don't even think that I could do a half mile at 5 minutes. Never mind a full mile. That's incredible.
Yeah, you know what? And that honestly, that wasn't my intention. It was just It's always the same. I go out, and I've said this many times. Where I run, it's the conservation land, the running trails right behind our house. So I don't go anywhere. I don't get into a car. I just leave the door, leave the front door, and just walk through the yard into the running trail, and I am off. So it was not something that was like I want to see how fast I could go. I didn't do anything yesterday. I was like sort of thought I was having like a sinus infection. I feel way better today. I wasn't really sure what it was. So yesterday I just completely took the day off and didn't do anything, and so I don't know if I was just like raring to go because I didn't do anything yesterday, but I just took off and I have my buds in and I'm listening to music. And every 5 minutes, the app will tell me where I'm at, right? It will tell me like how long I've been running, what the pace, and the distance, which is obviously for most runners or a lot of runners, it's important, right? To know your pace and how far you're going. And when I was out the first 5 minutes, I was completely shocked. I was like in the fours running. Like, I of course, I couldn't keep that pace up because I ran 7 miles, but I was just flying and I was just in my head thinking like I always do running, thinking of good things. And it was just, I don't know. It was a beautiful, beautiful run. And I was impressed.
I'm impressed. Are you kidding me? That is impressive, to say the least. By the way, Stephen, I want to do a shout out to Paula Di Quattro, who is listening to us via live stream.
Hey, Paula.
Hi, Paula.
That is a sweet soul out there. I'll tell you that. We love Paula.
We love Paula.
We do.
So what else is going on, Stephen?
Well, besides work as usual, one thing Saturday, a week from, this past Saturday, I went into my office and did a group reading for a woman who is getting married, her wedding shower with all her gal pals, which was really fun. So a big congratulations and shout out to Tanya, who is getting married. So that was a really, really great group. It was because, you're not only celebrating, and then after that, they were all going to go to lunch and they're celebrating the wedding coming up, but just, individually giving everybody readings was a lot of fun. And I really like Tanya. I have in past groups, like when I've done bigger groups, her and her husband to be, Tony, have come, so I got to meet them. I know Tanya's mother and her sisters from doing past readings. So the rest of them, like Tanya's girlfriends, I don't think I knew, but it was fantastic. It was a really good day. Good day. Yeah.
Good day.
Yeah.
And last week I didn't do the show because I was in Boston at a leadership conference that is sponsored by the Institute of Coaching, and it's done in collaboration with McLean Hospital and Harvard Med School. And I was there Thursday and Friday. The conference went through Saturday, and it was a fun conference, and I've learned a lot of stuff.
And I almost died.
Yeah, because you starved. There was nobody to cook for Stephen, and none of you came to the rescue. So.
No, you know what, Elix? I got to tell you, nobody did. No one thought of little Stephen, like that Stephen may die because there's nothing to eat. But I did have something to eat because you had made this incredible lasagna, cheese lasagna, because as a pescatarian, I don't eat meat, so the cheese lasagna was amazing. But I figured, okay, so should I need something with her. Like I need bread, obviously. But I thought, oh, wait a minute, there's cornbread. Because we went to see friends a couple of weeks ago, and one of our friends picked up at the Big Y has the best. If you've never tried cornbread from the Big Y, you have to. It's the best cornbread ever. So he got his too, right? So one is completely gone, but Elix, you put the other in the freezer.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking,
so it can last longer.
Yeah, so the lasagna's in the refrigerator, no big deal, so I can just mic that. And I thought, let me take the cornbread out from the freezer, and I can just get a little piece and either put it in the air fryer, which by myself I've never done. That would have been an experience. Or just zap it quickly. Well, that didn't go well because first of all, I was trying to cut it. In frozen, you can't really cut it. And then I knew enough that I couldn't put it in the microwave because it's a tin, container. So I've done that before and almost blew up the house.
Exactly.
So,
and I'm grateful that you remember that you do not put that in the microwave, because I would have come home to a holy mess. But.
So I tried. I'm like, how else do I do this then? And then I'm thinking, well, microwave, maybe I can put it in the oven. But then I thought, I don't know if you can put tin in the oven. So then I put the cover back on, put it back in the refrigerator, and ate a bagel with the lasagna. So,
and you survived.
I survived, but I wanted cornbread. You know?
Well, and you had it. You had it. You know it's okay. And but we also I wanted to just also acknowledge that our friends John and Krista came with you. They picked you up, and guys came into Boston, and you met me, and we went to dinner, and we had a spectacular time and dinner in Boston,
At Ocean Prime?
Ocean Prime in the Seaport area. I mean, how
Yeah.
spoiled am I? You
Yeah.
know, I'm at a conference, and they come to me, they meet me just so that we could go to dinner in the area. That was awesome.
Yeah, yeah. And before you got there, the three of us, me, John, and Christmas, as we call her, were at the bar waiting for you before we went to dinner. And the conversation was on people that have either big heads or small heads. It was a really good conversation, and the two bartenders got in on it too.
And one of them had a big head, right? Yeah. No, because I walked in
No.
into this is big head and this is small head. I'm like, I don't even know what the hell's going on here.
You know what? When we get together with those two, you never know the conversation. It's you just don't know where it's going to go, but it's all fun. It was a lot of fun. And listen, I'm the first to say, as the majority of me is Polish. Listen, don't get upset with me, but a lot of Polish people have big heads, and this is coming from a Polish person, right? So a lot of like I went to a wake a couple of years ago to one of my cousins on the Polish side that I haven't seen the family in forever, and it was just like walking candy apples in the entire wake. It was like people with just big heads, especially the guys, and listen, I'm Polish. I love being Polish. I don't want anybody to come at me with me saying that, but I think it's not a bad thing. It just means that, you know,
It just
big.
means that your hats are extra, extra, extra large.
Well, in mine is yes. So I
Yes.
listen. I'm not like pointing fingers. I'm me too, right? Yeah. When
No,
we
I'm
just I
talking
bought
about
those.
your hat. I'm not talking. I don't know any other Polish person. I know you, so that's the deal.
You don't know any other Polish
Well,
people.
of course I do, but I'm not. I'm referring to you because I know
Come
you.
on. I mean,
So I
I
know
bought
your
two
hats
hats.
are extra large. Yes.
Well, oh, that's another thing. Before we go quickly, we went to our first Kentucky Derby party.
Oh my God! Thanks to
Darlene and John.
Darlene and John, and we met wonderful people in there. And honestly, if you haven't seen our reel, if you haven't seen our pictures, you got to go to our social media because honestly, we looked spectacular. Just
And
saying.
I got those hats, and yes, I got Elix a large, and I had to get myself extra large. Even though I got to tell you, I think so much of me or my head is because of my hair. I got a lot
Well,
of
of
hair,
course.
right?
Well, you
Yeah,
have a big head and a lot of hair, so
I don't have
that
a big head.
okay. Well, all right.
All right,
You like you do your Polish proud. It,
well,
I
I
do,
love my. Are you kidding?
exactly
I love my Polish heritage, and
heritage exactly.
talking about hair before we go on a commercial break. One day years ago, Elix said to me, "I used to always do my aunt's hair. Let me blow dry your hair." And my hair was long. I mean, I'm not a really short haired guy anyway, but it was a good length. And I got out of the shower. He just sits me down. He's blow drying it, and he's smiling, and I'm like, oh wow. I mean, and I do have a lot of hair. It's gonna look good. And then he's done. He was like, all right, look, what do you think? And I looked, and I was transported back to the first season of Charlie's Angels, and I had Farrah Fawcett's hair.
And you love Farrah Fawcett, so you should have been
I
like,
do, but
"This
not on
is,
my head.
it
I
looks
don't.
fabulous." That's a little TMI, but listen, we do need to take we need to take a break. When we come back, we are going to start the conversation. That everyone will likely relate to because it's all about Mother's Day, celebrating Mother's Day. But I do have a couple of other things that we don't have time to do right now. So let's take a break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned and see you soon. And hello, everyone. Welcome back to Get a Grip with Coach Elix. I'm your host, Coach Elix, and with me, my amazing co host,
Stephen the Medium.
Stephen the Medium. And today, in honor of Mother's Day coming up this Sunday, we are celebrating a mother's love. And so, Stephen and I will both talk about our experiences with our moms or mom figures. And I hope that you guys relate to our stories. And if you want to join the conversation, you join the conversation at 508-222-1320. And Stephen, before we get going, I don't want to forget, I want to just send our love to the Barchelder family because they lost our friend Barbara and, the kids, Erica, Kyla, Matt and Allison. They lost their father, John, suddenly a couple of days ago. And Barbara, it's like our family. We've known, oh my goodness, we've known them for years, Stephen.
Yeah.
And so we just want to send our love, and we just want you to know we're thinking of you. We're sending you lots of love and healing light during this difficult time. That's it.
Yeah, I'm glad you did that. It's always a difficult thing to go through. So, and just hopefully them knowing that we're there for them is a good thing.
And they know that, because
yeah.
we've been friends with the Barchelders we've known the kids since they were kids, young kids, and now
Yes.
they're all married with children.
Yes.
So anyway, today conversation is about a mother's love because Sunday it is Mother's Day, and and a mother's love really is something that transcends, in my opinion, by actually not my opinion, it's actually my experience. It transcends biology, it transcends culture, and sometimes even time, itself. Now, Stephen, as you probably experience because of what you do as a medium, for some people, Mother's Day is filled with joy, but for many others, it carries grief, maybe longing, gratitude, healing, and reflection. So let's talk a little bit about that, Stephen. I know you had an incredible relationship with your mom, and I'm super privileged to have met Claire. What was that relationship meant? What did it mean to you, Stephen?
Well, I think I know it meant everything to me. That's like you hear people say that I'm who I am because of blah blah blah, and absolutely it's my mom because for someone who has two young boys that loses her husband, my dad when I was 8 years old took his life, and then she's here now. Not only with the love of her life, her husband, but now she has two boys that she has to raise by herself. So that woman did. I still sometimes don't even understand how she did it, but she managed to, as you know, she managed to put us, me and my brother, through a private school just to make sure that we had a very good education, and supported every single thing that the both of us did. I'll never forget one time after I graduated from Rhode Island College. Of course, I had to take student loans out because we didn't have a lot of money, and my mother won on the lottery. She used to play the lottery, I think on a daily basis or so, and it wasn't like a huge amount, but it was whatever it was. Maybe I think it was maybe like 15,000 or so that she won. It was the only time she ever won that big. One of the things for me she did was the amount of money on my student loan she paid off. That was just who she was. Everything was for her boys. She never remarried, and she used to tell me that later in the years that she was never interested in remarrying because her focus was on her two boys. When we started getting a little bit older, she started dating, and some of the stories, Elix. I know you weren't physically there, but you heard from me and her of some of these stories, and I'll tell one story quickly.
I heard them, not just from you, but from her as well.
Yeah, exactly. One time, this guy came. His name was Bob or Bobby. And I remember even when I was much younger, I was probably like a teen. He was a very handsome guy and had a really nice car because he pulled up in front of my mother's our house when I was living there. And I remember he came in, and it was his second or third date with my mother, and he came in, they talked, I saw him, and then he left. And before my mother was getting ready to go to the car to meet him, I said to her, last time he was here, you told him it was my birthday, and he didn't even say happy birthday. And so, to make a long story short, I started like crying. I can't believe you're going to go out with someone who doesn't remember my birthday. And so she walked out, was out there for a couple of minutes, and then came in, and she told him she doesn't want to see him again. That was my mother, like because she saw that I was so hurt by that. That's what she did. He left. I never saw him again. That was my mom. Now, rightfully so. Should I have done that? No, not at all. I was the most spoiled boy there is. But I did, and that's who she was, right? That's who she was. So and I owe everything to her.
Yeah, and if anyone has read your book, they would be like, yeah, okay, sure, that makes perfect sense because, you got plenty of stories in that book.
There's definitely there's definitely a lot of stories in that book, but she was from the earliest memories I had with her. She was always just an advocate for her two boys. But more importantly, every picture that the family has, like my mom has 3 sisters. They all lived in Providence. So thank God for those sisters, my aunts, because they were always there to help. And, my cousin Holly, who I've talked about, who I'm really close with. But my family, my mom and the 3 sisters, when they were living, they all have their own pictures of when we went on vacation, because we'd go on vacation together every year, like all these different places. And there's so many pictures of my cousin Holly and my brother with so many of like my aunts and uncles. And I'm not exaggerating, the only pictures you see of me is when my mother's there. If my mother wasn't there, Stephen was not there. I mean, I was the baby, and wherever, excuse me, she went, I went. And if she wasn't going, I wasn't going. So that's just...
And you still the baby, let's face it.
Yes.
She may be in spirit, but you still the baby. And, we haven't even talked about your Grandma Rose. I'm sure at some point, she'll pipe in. But Stephen, listen, what lesson about love did you learn from Claire?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, just unconditional love, like that protective, like she becomes the lioness if she feels like her kids are in any kind of trouble or danger, or someone's going at them or so. But it was just unconditional love. That's all it was. That's what I learned is, and listen, like everybody else and anybody else in this world, like people have their own hang-ups and whatnot. But when it came to like my mom and love, there was never ever a question ever, even if we were arguing, there was never ever a question that she wouldn't be there for me. Never. It never happened. It just didn't, because that's how I grew up with her, and that's how I always saw her, is that she's my mom and she's always going to be there, and she loves me unconditionally, and until she dies, that's never going to change, and it never changed. It never did.
Yeah. And for me, because again, I was privileged to have met Claire and spent many years with her, the word that comes to mind is selfless. Like, she really was selfless. She put you guys, her 2 boys, first and foremost. And as you said, she made sacrifices, but she gave you, my goodness, what she gave you. It's unbelievable. Like, a single mom like her with no one she didn't have a lot of money, but she put you guys through private Catholic school, and you never lacked anything. So
No,
it's just beautiful to watch that relationship with you guys.
no, absolutely. And this has absolutely nothing to do with her being a mother. But I just have to throw in, she was also just physically a
Beautiful.
beautiful woman. I mean, she looked like Elizabeth Taylor. I mean, she was beautiful.
Yeah.
Like Doc hair, green eyes. My mom was gorgeous. My dad was very handsome also, obviously. But when I think of my mom, that's just something that I always think about, like just how pretty she was. And and I remember that too, because there was throughout life when we were out somewhere and we would meet someone, and someone would just say something like, you're just as pretty outside as you are inside, or so. I just remember those comments. So I just shout out to Claire Ann Lavery Masick. So
I'm sure they're all happy and cheering from spirit. So let's take a break, Stephen. When we come back, I want to talk about my mom figure, and because my story is quite different from yours. But let's do a break first. And if you're listening, we're talking about a mother's love. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. And hello, everyone. Welcome back to Get a Grip with Coach Elix. I'm your host, Coach Elix, and with me, my amazing co host,
Attorney Stephen.
Stephen the Medium, who is also an attorney and my husband, most importantly. And today, as a way to honor mothers and celebrate upcoming Mother's Day this Sunday, we are talking about a mother's love. And during the first segment, Stephen, you talked about Claire, your mom, and that relationship, that bond that you guys, that just very very special bond that I was so privileged to be part of for so many years. My story is slightly different. Many of you already know that I was adopted. However, I did not know that I was adopted. I didn't learn I was adopted until I was 18 years old. In that, and so I lived my entire life, believing that, my adopted parents were my biological parents. And my adopted mom is the person that lived with us, and I care for her, and she lived here, and she died here with us into 2023, and and as Stephen can attest to, I did everything that you know a son could do for a mom. But today for me, Stephen, actually want to talk about a different person, somebody that you didn't get to meet. You know plenty about her. Well, you know her in spirit, of course. It's an aunt. I call her Taiti, and she, as I was growing up, my both my parents were working parents. I really, I label myself a latchkey child because I was, on my own, after school. So I spent a lot of time with my aunt. So she was someone that, like, I learned about, who I am today. It's because of values that she taught me. It's because of how she was and who she was, and in all the things that she taught me early on in life, Stephen. And I always remember, I don't know, I could have been definitely maybe 8, 9 years old. I was a young boy, and I remember her saying to me, you know, life is filled with ups and downs, but you have to embrace them all because that is the essence of life. And I was like a young kid. And I don't know that in that moment I understood what she meant, but I understood it later on. And, and I don't believe, Stephen, that I would be the person that I am today if she didn't play the role that she played in my life. I mean, she was my rock. And ironically, my brother, my from my adopted parents, and other cousins from my adopted family, they had my aunt because she was like the caretaker of the young cousins, but none of them, Stephen, experienced the relationship that I experienced with her. Like, they all said to me, "Oh my God, by the time you came, she was a different person because she treated you so differently than she treated us." Now, I don't know whether that's true or not. That was their experience, nor I care. What I do care about is the fact that she was super, super special to me. And I always remember, and I've shared this story with you. Um, you know, Again, I didn't know back then. I had no idea I was adopted, but clearly everyone else knew. Now, of course, in retrospect, some of the comments, some of the behaviors now make sense because they some of those family members saw me as somebody who was brought into the family. I wasn't like their blood. And so I remember one of my mom's sister, this is adopted family again, making a comment. And again, I was a young boy, but even in my younger days, I always knew about, I felt I knew about my sexuality. And, so maybe I was perhaps somewhat feminine. I don't know. Again, I was so young, but I remember distinctly being in the kitchen where this other aunt made a comment about how he is, but he felt very derogatory towards me, a young boy, mind you. And I remember my aunt sort of stood in front of her like a lion, Stephen, like the way you describe your mom.
Mm-hmm.
And she literally said, "You don't ever refer to him that way." And I felt so safe and so protected by her. Listen, when I lost her, that was my first ever experience in losing someone that I my heart, like, my that loss hurt. And it hurt so deeply because I was so emotionally connected with her. she felt like my guardian angel, and she protected me, and she was my guide. And the other story I share, talk about, you know, again, who I am today. I really do. I believe I am a carbon copy of who she was, in terms of character and presence, because I, by the way, she lived in poverty. She didn't have much. She didn't work. She was poor. But growing up, I never ever thought that. I never experienced that. I wasn't even aware that she didn't have resources, because she she was such, her life, in her persona, in who she was, seemed so happy and so present and so alive, and grateful about everything that she had, that it never ever occurred to me that she didn't have a lot of things that, you know most people seek or need in their life, like money, right? And it wasn't until I was an adult that I realized, wow, she was poor, but I never, as a young kid, I never ever noticed that. So, when I asked you that same question, like what lesson about love did I learn from her? I mean, I think that really encapsulates who she was for me. And talk about, and I'm very open about this. There's two people that I've learned about unconditional love. I first learned it from her, and then from you. That's it. You both have been the two people in my life where I've experienced unconditional love.
I
And
love that.
sadly, you never got to meet her, but I do know that you know her in spirit.
Yeah, I mean, and it wasn't that long when we met. When we met in '93, and she passed away in '91. So I mean, it's 2 years, but in the bigger scheme of it, it's not that long. But just like anything else, Elix, I feel her all the time in our house because she's always with you. So I never met her physically, but I sure the heck know her spirit wise.
And by the way, Stephen, our connection, and I know, and again, I was a young kid at the time, so I'm looking at it now through the lens of adulthood, right? But back then, I just had a connection with her. By the way, like you said, you were joking about me doing her hair. That's She just loved me for who I was. She could care less that I wanted to do her hair. She could care less that I wanted to play with her nails or the makeup. She was just, you want to do that? Okay, let's do it. And I'm going to do it with you. And that was the kind of unconditional love that I think is so rare,
Elix,
for
you just gotta share the hair thing, the hair story.
so the hair. So the hair, again, I spent, I think in my childhood, I spent almost every afternoon after school, I would go spend time with her. By the way, she had no TV in the house. Again, she came from a very poor place. But again, as a young kid, I didn't know nor I cared, because what we did is we talked, we played, we listened to music together, we did all kinds of things without watching TV. And one of those things was, I wanted to play with her hair. And one day she had very thin, straight hair, and I said, Taiti, you know what? Let me do a perm. Now, at that point, I'm like probably 10 years old. And she's like, okay. So she got a perm, and the little things, rollers that you do. And listen, I was super talented. So for a 10-year-old creative young boy, I was doing it. And I did it, except that I did the little rollers so tight that when I was done, she literally had an afro. And but you know what, Stephen? She loved it. She never once complained. She never once said, "Oh my God, I'm gonna have to cut my hair." She not none of that, Stephen. Now, my mom, my adopted mom, and her other sister, the one that was sort of like speaking derogatory to me, made all kinds of comment about her hair, like, "Oh my God, you're gonna have to get a cut. Oh my God, looks terrible." But my aunt, she could care less. And that's what I mean, Stephen. That's what I'm talking about. Like somebody who just loves you, and there's nothing you could do no wrong. And honestly, Stephen, when I think about her and I think about the person who I am today, I know she was always the inspiration. She was always that role model for me, because I wanted to be like that. I wanted to be a good person. I wanted to be. By the way, she was a Christian, but she was not a Christian that tells you she's a Christian. She was a Christian that actually demonstrated her Christianity, uh, her spiritual Christianity, I guess. I do not know if I'm pronouncing that well, in who she was, in how she treated others. And that's what I learned. I learned that from her, Stephen. And I am the person that I am today because of that incredible, beautiful woman that became a mother figure for me.
Well, we sounds like we were both blessed.
Yeah, I know we were, and
Yes.
again, our stories, in so many ways, are so different, but in so many ways, we have so many parallels,
Yes.
and that's why we are here, and that's why we're building our future together. And right now, what we got to build a commercial break because we are about quarter off. So let's do that, Stephen. And when we come back, we'll conclude the conversation about a mother's love. We'll be right back. And hello, everyone. Welcome back to Get a Grip with Coach Helix. I'm your host, Coach Helix, and with me, my amazing co host.
Stephen the Medium.
And today we are honoring mothers ahead of Mother's Day this Sunday. And our conversation is about a mother's love. In segment one, Stephen got to talk about his mom. Segment two, I got to talk about my aunt, who was a mom figure for me. And I want to conclude our conversation, Stephen, about that, part that is also present for some mothers during Mother's Day, which is grief. And it may be for some people, it may be that they've lost their mothers. For some are mothers who have lost their children, or there may be those individuals who are, missing the relationship, whether it was a mom figure, or again, a mom that has lost a child. Given what you do, Stephen, and given your relationship to spirit, and that people do come to you for, for comfort and validations, what is your message to moms who are grieving, or individuals who are grieving their moms?
Well, when I'm doing readings, Helix, Spirit knows exactly what the person who is in front of me, what they need, right? So I don't, for the most of the reading, I am just giving the messages that someone who's dead is giving me to give, whether I'm doing a mom who lost a child or I'm doing a child who lost their mom, right? So it's amazing, right? Because it's amazing validations and whatever they give. So I certainly love that, because a lot of times it gets very emotional. But there's also a segment here that I am sort of privy to when I do readings, and it's people that I'm reading, whether it's a guy or a woman, who have their moms living, but they have no relationship with them for whatever reason.
That's
and
right.
that is always generally comes up through somebody else in spirit, whether it's like the person I'm reading's grandmother, who her daughter is the person's mom, so the grandmother brings it up in whatever kind of way. So, I bring that up because there are people that are living on this earth that for Sunday, it's not those two categories. Either I have my mom and I'm going to celebrate, or I don't have my mom and I'm grieving and I'm sad. It's the ones that have a mom but have no relationship with them. It's sort of like that third category. And there's many people like that. And I can tell, right from the beginning when I start doing a reading, and that's sort of like I'm right at the beginning of that subject. As soon as I say your mom, I can immediately tell by the person's face. Their face just completely changes. I see their energy change, their auras change, just because they're not really sure who's bringing it up in spirit, seeing their mothers living, and where they're going with it. Many, many times people think or say to me at the end of the reading, I thought at first when my grandmother or grandfather, whoever brought it up, was starting bringing up the conversation, it's because they're mad at me for not having a relationship or so, which is never the case, right? There's no judgment in spirit. But, you have to give a shout out to people that have moms, and for whatever reason, and again, not judging either side, they just don't have a relationship with their mom. And that's another sort of category that's got to be, very difficult.
In given all the conversations, and perhaps the collective feedback that you hear from the spirit world, what would your advice be for somebody who may be in that position, Stephen?
Well, listen, I think every single time I do, if I'm in that scenario, every single time, and I will go by what I'm reading from the person, because it could be, you have from zero to 10 on the spectrum, right? You've got someone who is at like a zero, like yeah, I know. It's been a while, and I'm trying to figure this out. And then you have the other side of the spectrum, 10. Now, I don't want to talk about my mother. So, so I have to really sort of gauge where they are because I don't want to push it too much. But one of the things I usually always tell somebody, regardless of this is not connected to anything, it's not connected to the circumstances, but you got to understand or imagine people in spirit like looking at this just want you to be happy, and of course so much of that always is just wanting any relationship that's broken to be healed, right? That's what happens. However, there's definitely times when I'm doing readings that spirit will actually, in a very delicate way, just give me like messages or comments about it's okay, honey. It's okay to be where you are right now. Because you know what? Like anything else, Felix, a person may have like a mom who could be very toxic, in that the only way, the person sitting in front of me is going to like reclaim like her physical and mental health is to, for whether it's permanent or temporary, separate from their mother. Spirit knows that. So, it's sort of pretty amazing how spirit delicately will give me info, because again, I don't know any of the circumstances, but I listen to them and I just trust them and give those, those messages.
And Stephen, on the subject of, perhaps somebody who is grieving their mom, maybe, whether it's a recent death or, maybe not so recent, because a loss of a mom stays with you forever and ever, right?
Right.
One of the things that I've heard, when I've listened to you do readings, is you often tell people that a way to honor those loved ones in spirit is to, often talk to them, maybe assigning a sign, so that you know when they're reaching out to you. Tell our listeners more about that.
I do, but you know what, Elix, over the past maybe year or so, what I've really learned, and I learn every single day from these readings and speaking to dead people, is I always say to people now, you have to start with honoring how you feel. Like you have to sit in it. If you are feeling like you are devastated, or it's your mom's birthday and she's not here, and so those feelings are getting exaggerated, and you just don't feel like you want to even get up from bed and go through the day because your mom's not here. One of the things that Spirit has told me that you have to honor that. You have to walk through that. And that may sound like an oxymoron, like, well, I don't want to feel that. But you know what? I always tell people that when you do feel that, when you actually step into that, that's when you're going to get the biggest hug from your mom or dad or whomever is in spirit, because you're feeling it. And there's, the other side of grief is love, right? So when you're stepping in that grief, then you're getting further into the other side of the coin, which is love. And that's where it sort of all expands. In addition to exactly what you said, is that, a sign. I did a blog on my website once on that. And I just said, close your eyes, envision a room that you walk in one door. The room has two doors. You walk in one room, your mom, if we're going with mom, walks in the other. You hug her, you sit with her for a moment and say, Mom, I want to assign a sign. So every time I see a blue jay, it's going to be you. That's going to be our calling card. And that's it. And then your mom knows that in spirit, you said it, and then that happens. So, it's keeping spirit current. It's keeping the connection alive. Whatever you can figure out to do that is going to help you get through the grieving.
I love that.
I think that's it.
I know. I really do love that. Well, I think we really are at the top of the hour, Stephen. And for me personally, this conversation felt somewhat healing. I don't know about you, because it just, I love to have had the opportunity to honor my aunt again in this conversation. But, as we close today's conversation about a mother's love, um, I think it's important to acknowledge that, of course, Mother's Day can hold many emotions for the people listening. Maybe joy, maybe gratitude, maybe grief, reflection, love. But perhaps that is what makes mother's love so powerful, and that's why it leaves such an imprint in our heart. That's why it shapes us to the people that we are today. That's why our mothers, whether alive or in spirit, their love continued to guide us in who we are and what we do. And that's why it just simply lived with us long after those moments have passed. So whether you're in a relationship, uh, with your mom, or your relationship with your mom has been beautiful, complicated, healing, painful, I hope you today gave you that opportunity to honor the impact of her love, regardless, care, in the nurturing that provided for you in your life. And I hope this conversation was as meaningful to you as it was for me and for you, Stephen. So with that said, Stephen, where can people get a hold of you?
Well, before I say that, I just a big shout out. Today is my parents' wedding anniversary,
Yay.
May 8th. And I could never end the show without saying, my pseudo mom, my grandma Rose, who you mentioned, my dad's mom. Never met her physically, but she's more than mom. She's just everything to me too. So Grandma Rose, I love you. You can find me at Stephen the Medium in my website and any social media.
And I love Grandma Rose too.
Yes.
So, and you can find me at Coach Elix anywhere on social media. And until next week, we will be here. Get a grip with Coach Elix. So come back next Friday, 1 p.m., and we will continue the conversation. In the interim, happy Mother's Day for all the mothers out there. Thank you to Dave and Jim and everyone at WARA 1320 AM radio.
Yes.
And our producer, Mark Clark, who is in the hospital recovering from an illness. We continue to wish you a speedy recovery so you can get back to work very, very soon. Other than that, Stephen, have a wonderful weekend, everyone.
Bye-bye.